With the extra point, this is Erik McKinney, joined by Greg Katz. Greg, looking at USC's 2021 schedule, go ahead and give me your turning point game, kind of where you feel the season could maybe hang in the balance depending on an outcome.
Well, when I look at it, I think it's appropriate that the end of the first half of the schedule, before they go to a bye, is going to be playing at home against Utah. And while I know that Utah is incredibly, I don't want to use the word incompetent when they come to the Coliseum, they just don't win. The last win was in 1917. SC has won 8 in a row. So right there, you'd say, well, there's a mental block there, maybe. However, when I look at Utah, where they're positioned in the schedule, we don't know what's going to happen the week before against Colorado. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, SC gets upset in Colorado. Then the turning point is Utah, because if they lose to Utah, it's over, baby. And if they beat Utah, they're in a good position, a tie-breaking position. Of course, Utah and Colorado are rivals according to the Pac-12. So when they play each other, who knows what's going to happen? But I think the Utah team that's going to come in here is going to have 5 games under its belt. So it's not going to be like they're replacing somebody and it's the third game of the season. It won't be like last year's game in Salt Lake City. I think the key to the season turning point is Utah, because so much is riding on that game. For no other reason, it's a Pac-12 South game, but it's a huge game between Utah, which will be a contender for the Pac-12 South, and SC hasn't played Arizona State yet, and then we'll be playing at Arizona State some couple weeks down the line. So from my perspective, it's Utah.
I like Utah for all the reasons you mentioned, and I think that's probably the right answer if we're having to agree on what the right answer is. I had a couple thoughts. I'm comfortable kind of saying I think how USC looks against San Jose State right off the bat. I think that's a pretty good program, and I think if USC comes out and kind of blows them out and looks great, I think you do. I think you can put some confidence in. All right, they've figured some things out, and this could be a pretty good season. If they struggle against San Jose State to win, I think you can go back and look at maybe recent history of that might not be a great team, a great USC team that we're seeing the rest of the season. But I think I'm gonna cheat a little bit because I'm gonna go down the season, and it's the game you mentioned at Arizona State. I think says so much for not only this season for both Arizona State and for USC, but potentially going forward too. This is an Arizona State program whose coaches are kind of out for blood on the recruiting trail against USC staff, trying to come into California, make a big statement. It would not surprise me at all if Arizona State is the preseason pick for Pac-12 South champs. That they have a lot coming back, they have a lot coming in at Arizona State, and so it feels like one of those games, and we've seen a couple going back, several years where USC goes out to Arizona State and they could kind of run it up, and they would have no problem doing that if that's how the game plays out, and that sets up potentially the year after and the year after, and if you let Arizona State get rolling, that's a tough path in the Pac-12 South. The flip side to that being USC has a chance to go out there and kind of shut them up a little bit and keep a claim on the Pac-12 South, on the recruiting in that area and doing kind of what the USC program, the USC coaches really want to do. So I think that's an incredibly important game this year, and kind of getting it where it is at the end of the season when you're trying to kind of keep the momentum going, or kind of start that finishing kick with those last few games there. I think the outcome of that game is going to be huge for this season, and also looking forward a little bit where that could spill over into 2022, 2023, and all the recruiting classes associated with those years.
Well, I'll tell you what, you hit on an excellent point. The recruiting of the future. The way I look at it, it's the U.S. University of Texas at Southern California coaching staff versus the Arizona State Trojans and their 3 former members of USC, and Chris Claiborne Chris Hawkins, and of course, Prentice Gill, there's going to be some significant recruiting battles. And a game, as you point out, against Arizona State is going to be critical, not only just in standings, but in the future recruiting wars and for the years to come. As long as those three Trojans are at Arizona State, things could get really, shall we say, intense. And I think you're going to see a real rivalry grow even bigger